Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pass the Syrup, the agents podcast for agents, only ever features agents. If you're a consumer and you're watching this, turn it off right now because you're going to get offended. We're going to be talking about agents and how much we love each other, and we're going to fight back. You hate us, we hate you. I'm kidding. We don't hate you. Please, my clients, if you see this, I'm sorry. I love you. You're all amazing. Three great guests, as always. We only have great guests. Wonderful Wendy Peterman, super Steph Walker, and just Jonathan Handford. That's quite hard, isn't it? A superlative that begins with J. Anyone got one?
Jolly.
Jolly.
I mean, I was trying to be authentic, John. Jesus. Jolly John Handford. That is, yeah. Oh, that's going to stick. I'm going to change your name on your phone to that. Hello, Jolly. How is everyone?
Good. I've got the 100-day cough, so feel free to mute me if you need to during this.
Oh, look at that. That's the little violin there for you. You know, 100-day cough. Formerly known as COVID, or
who even knows at this point?
Yeah.
Something more to moan about, so I'll take it.
Okay. All right. Well, you listen, you're a trooper. Thank you for making it here. You know, without you, this show doesn't exist. Steph, you're the first person ever to appear on a podcast. And in fact, based on that, let's go straight to you, Steph. What are we talking about today? Big start.
Yeah, big start. So I was going to be controversial.
No.
I know. But I'm actually going to go for something that I am interested to hear everybody's thoughts on. So in the States, the DOJ have released a statement that they are going to reopen a case against buy-side commission. So for those that don't know, in the States, you're going to pay between 4 and 6% on average when you sell your home. All of that commission is paid by the seller and it's split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. And essentially, there's been a number of court cases that are saying it's a monopoly, it's unfair, it is increasing house prices unfairly. And ultimately, who actually wins when the seller is paying both sides of the commission? And then you look at what's happening over here in the UK. We're actually trying to raise our fees, charge more, and the people that we're emulating could essentially have their entire system turned on its arse. So, you know, what's the future look like? What does everybody think? I'm super excited.
This is really funny because I'm certain, John, wasn't this what you brought to the conversation last time you were on?
No, I think we have spoken. I was talking to a couple of American realtors at the home staging conference in London. And at that point, this was a little while ago, the ruling had just been made in the courts. So, of course, it was an interesting topic of discussion. And it's quite comical because if you bought a property in the States, you appointed an agent to act on your behalf, and yet you didn't pay them any commission, yet you know that you appointed the agent because you gave them the mandate and you knew that the seller was covering the buying agent's fees. And yet one of the principles of the court case is, well, the buyers didn't know that the sellers were. Of course they did. But it's a ridiculous argument. And if I go back 20 years, myself and Sean, we went to the Realtors Convention in America because we wanted to get new ideas, fresh, innovative stuff that we could bring back and implement into our business. And at the time, I'd only ever seen the UK property market. Social media wasn't as prevalent, so it's not as globalized as it is now. Fees were really low, the service was awful in the UK, and estate agents were generally hated. And we went to America where the fees were really high, the estate agents did a great job, and generally they were loved by their communities because they did a really grand job. So we looked and thought, my God, these guys have got it right. We need to implement what they're doing back home, and then we can raise the standards. So you've got to be careful what you wish for, because there are some agents that we deal with in the UK at the minute that are bloody awful because their sole purpose is to be as cheap and nasty as possible. And I've got an instance with a vendor whose property I've sold in North Leamington. She tried to book a viewing on a property close to me. She couldn't get hold of the agent. she resorted to going and knocking on the front door to speaking to the vendor there, because she simply couldn't get hold of the agent because they just don't care. They've got no interest. So yeah, I'm going to be watching that with interest to see how it all develops. But the argument that we didn't know that the vendor was paying that is absolute garbage. And the American realtors, their impression was the legal team that are the instigator and the catalyst behind this are ambulance chasers, and that's the term that he used. And they've gone on after a number of different sectors, and there are a handful of agents that have already paid out and settled, which is a worrying trend.
Just an amusing anecdote. My house is on the market currently with me. Of course, that'd be strange if it wasn't. And I had a knock on the door on Sunday, and this guy said, "Do you live here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm in my pajamas, and it's like 8 a.m. on a Sunday, so if I don't, that's really weird." But yeah, and he said, "Oh, sorry, I know you're on the market. I just really hate estate agents, so I wanted to come direct to you." And I went, "I've got really bad news for you. Really, really bad news for you." But just going back to the actual point, one part of the recent statement from the DOJ says that they actually believe that some of the I suppose, I'm trying to think how they phrased it now. The unfairness, I suppose, sorry, is what they were trying to say, is that you're not actually setting the commission as the buyer that's going to be represented. So the seller has the choice to set the level of commission, and ultimately, if it isn't where the buyer's agent wants to see it, then they ultimately won't show homes. And I did experience that when I lived in California, and God, we're only 7 minutes in and I've been able to mention that I lived in California. So that's a record. But people wouldn't show homes if they don't see the commission side that they wish. So is there an element that maybe they'll just shake up the whole scenario and buyers will end up paying the commission side, and therefore it will be much fairer for the sellers who have, total access to the open market, I suppose?
So, Steph, let me ask you a question because of your very, very relevant experience. If I'm a buyer in America and I'm instructing an agent to act on my behalf, but they won't show me a property because the seller's agent is not going to do the right deal for them, I can go direct, can I?
Yeah, I think certainly the behavior I saw though is that if you're working with a great buyer's agent, you really just wait for them to send listings from the MLS. I don't think there's the same sitting on Zillow and Realtor.com the way that people sit on Rightmove here. So I think there's much more of a trust that my agent is going to get me into all the great homes. And I know pocket listings aren't necessarily allowed now, but people still, of course,
But
have pocket listings.
it's the cultural norm, right? So as a buyer, I'm expecting them to do the job and I'm expecting them to get them through the door. So I'm not, unless I'm one of those, the mad 5%, I'm not going to go out there and do it myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So what do you think for the future of the UK? Do you reckon, are we on a trajectory to increase fees and do something on the buyer's side? Or is the buyer's side even remotely in the zone to be represented and pay a fee to do business other than the top end of the premium price property market?
I mean, I think we are all raising fees, even, by incremental amounts. I'm certainly hearing it in my business. I'm hearing it with friends I know who run other independent agencies as well. So I think we're doing some really great work there. And with the rise of the personal agent, I think we're also giving independent agents a bigger platform to go. There's actually a strong group of us now that are truly in this for the best interests of the client. And I think that's a brilliant playing field to have, and it's certainly leveling more. I think the good thing about buy sides here, certainly with my experience in the UK, is that we are positioning it as a value add. We are acting on behalf of buyers to go and help them negotiate that onwards purchase, to help pair them with a property. And that because it's new, quote unquote, I know it's not new, but newish, certainly to the public, it is a value add proposition. It is something extra that they haven't had before. They haven't had representation within a transaction. And I actually believe that's a good thing. Whereas, because it's just the norm in the States, it's almost a sort of given. Don't get me wrong, am I sure being represented by a buyer's agent, particularly in, California, where a state where the agent writes the contract, that's a powerful thing. But I think we are bringing a real sense of that being something that could really help people, which will help us all raise our fees. A lot of our partner agents combine it. This sort of, I'm going to be a seller agent on this part, and then for this part of the contract, I'm going to be a buyer's agent, and those two things work in tandem, but they are very separate services that I offer.
What do you think, Wendy?
Yeah, my only worry, we do have certain areas where buyers have to pay and vendors don't, like auctions. And it certainly in my area, and I think unless you're a distressed vendor or you have to sell and you're in an auction where, well, we're in a competitive market where you're worried about being gazumped, for instance, at the moment, asking the buyer to pay a fee is very difficult in a normal sale environment. I know certainly we've had it here where we put a couple of things in auction and the buyers they kind of said they didn't know, but they obviously did. And the sales about that, they just didn't offer in the end because they weren't prepared to pay that fee. So I think we've got a bit of a way to go. I totally agree with you, Steph, in terms of the offering. I think, yeah, there's, and we're doing it we're negotiating on behalf of our vendors also, if they need the help. And obviously we're not charging any more for that. We do it because we're nice.
You are
but if
very
that can
nice,
be,
Wendy.
if that's more of a thing, I mean, I don't know who else does it, but if that's more of a thing and there is an opportunity to kind of shout that out and push our fees up, I think that can only be good.
I think the only problem that certainly I still see, and I got 10 years ago we were negging for our sellers on their onwards purchase, right? So it's not new. I think it's definitely good to be able to monetize it where you can, but it's just other agents lacking the sort of hindsight to collaborate and going, do you know what? If the agent's coming to me with an offer, that's half my bloody job done.
Yeah.
So my margins are bigger as the agent receiving a negotiated for offer, quite clearly. And I still see that there's that kickback of, hang on a second, why are you ringing? Why are you turning up to a viewing with, the client? And it's just like, why are we so arbitrary with our arguing?
Yeah, I mean, there should be at least trust in our industry between ourselves. If there isn't that, then seriously, it's a bit of a sad state of affairs, isn't it? But we get exactly the same.
I don't think there's any issue with you acting for your seller on their purchase and coaching them through the process of buying, be it with a set fee, a percentage of the saving, whatever it may be. I think where I have an issue is where agents act for both the seller and the buyer. And there are, and I won't name any names because I won't make this podcast controversial in any way, shape or form.
Oh, go on, do.
Big agent.
I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it.
Go for it.
My role within finding control would never, I'd never do compromise the brand.
Oh, Jolly John's at it again.
Yeah, I'm Jolly Johnson. But there are businesses that I know that have two separate brands, and they will act for the seller in one instance, and they will act for the buyer in the other, and it's the same company. And we know it's the same company, it's the same shareholders, it's the same stakeholders, the same beneficiaries. And where do your priorities lie? Is it to help the buyer get the best price, or is it to help the seller achieve the highest price? And there you've got that conflict of interest, and I think it needs to be more transparent. And they've done that for years and years and years, and the general public don't know that it's the same company behind the scenes, and that I don't agree with. That I think is wrong.
I think there's a, because of the existing model in this country, traditional branch, be it corporate or independent, but you've got management level, then you've got entry level roles, and let's call them negotiators. One of my major gripes is you see it online all the time that people talk, negotiators talk about getting a deal agreed for their buyer. You think you don't work for the buyer. What do you mean? You mean you sold for your client at the right price, or you managed to get your client to reduce the price so your buyer could? And I'm not, just to be clear, this is not an attack on the junior negotiator. They don't know they're doing anything wrong, because in their mind, they spend the majority of the time with the buyers, with the prospective buyers, with the applicants. They build that relationship. And we know traditionally agency in the UK, not great at feedback, not spending enough time talking to your client, giving them feedback, building that relationship. And so it's natural they think they're working for the buyer, but they've got it completely on its head. And so, yeah, there's a really strong argument to say that we need things to be turned on the head in this country because, yeah, I don't know. It's easy to point finger at the corporates, which is unfair, but there's not enough. My perception is there's not enough training, not enough coaching, not enough support for people coming into the industry. They don't even know they're doing anything wrong, and they're all high-fiving each other.
It's funny
because-
how they do know. They must know somewhere in their heads that they're doing something wrong because the vendor pays their salary.
Right here,
I think they just think, oh, I've sold a house.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the celebration milestone. I've sold a house. We can put the
Yeah.
sold board up.
I
But the
remember
vendor is their client.
when I first launched my first agency, which is too long ago now for me to mention. I arrived on my horse and cart, and the three guys that I was working with, so they operated as negotiators. We were a lettings only agency at that time. And I remember us regularly having the same argument and them telling me that the most important people in our business model are the applicants, the prospective tenants, and me saying, you freaking morons, they are not our clients. And the back and forth and the arguments we would have. And I was in it every day. And as it happened, we built a reasonable business and those guys were very good at what they did. But until they are building the relationship with the homeowner, the client, that they believe the person they have the relationship is the most important, which there's something nice in that because they believe in the relationship and they believe in helping that person. But there's a lot of education to be thrown out there to the masses to get us on the right footing or get us moving in the right direction. We've gone in a really funny way away from what we originally started talking about. Happens all the time.
I was just thinking of it.
Steph's got previous. But back to direction of travel. Oh, sorry, that's what I'm going to say to you. Right, we so when COVID struck, when we went into lockdown 1, it's like we had some time on our hands. Not that it was fun or anything, and actually with 3 little children running around the house, it was not like a lot of time on our hands. But when I got a spare 12 minutes, I decided I was going to try and build a new proposition. It would be a buyer's product. So we'd service buyers because we didn't really do that in our current business. We could help with the onwards negotiation piece, but it wasn't a revenue generating exercise. So we built this pretty good looking product and then we ran it for one of the guys that worked in the business who wanted to buy locally. And I said, I'll act as your buying agent and we'll just do everything that's in this pack. Let's see what we can do. So as you guys will know, negotiating with an agent on the other side who's not that great is highly entertaining. Like you know what I'm talking about. Like I'm in essence I'm acting for the buyer, and I'm going to get who is my mate. I'm going to get her the best possible deal, and talk about give this poor agent the runaround. But it worked because she purchased at a price that I think meant she was buying under market value, and it was right as we came out of lockdown, so just before everything went really crazy, because that could have messed things up. But the issue you've got, and so I really won't do specifics, is that I was really easily able to get out of that agent what the number needs to be and what's the bottom line for their client, and I'm not Darren Brown. There were no mind games here. It was just a bit of back and forth, building a relationship, bit of rapport, and then squeeze the life out of them. And their client was definitely did not benefit from that interaction. So there's a lot to be said. If we bring out, if us 4 here, or you 3 at least, probably pretty good agents, launched a great buying service, estate agents on the other side might be in trouble. Actually,
Well, they should be better at their jobs, shouldn't they?
Well, they should, Wendy. I completely agree. They should.
You know what? Yeah, just be good at your job.
I did say to a client the other day, and I've only recently the last 3-4 months, I've gone back out to the front line and been involved in day-to-day selling, and it has been amazing that nothing's changed since 2015. Really, it's just quite scary. But I said to a client, look, there's agents that you want to sell through and agents that you want to buy through, right? And it just only took 30 seconds. They went, yeah, I want to know exactly who I want the house I want to buy with to go on. But yeah, I'd never ever list with them. But isn't that a really state of affairs.
Yeah, it is, but and it is true, which is even it's terrible.
I think that used to be the case. The issue that you get is there are some agents now that are so bad, it's not the negotiation, it's then what happens afterwards within the conveyancing process.
True. Yeah.
And actually, you could sabotage your own sale or your own just by having that agent in the chain. And there are instances, I won't say names, we've all been there, we're fresh and wise to it, and you'll see them and you'll think that's going to be a nightmare. That's the next 3 to 6 months of a lack of communication, of not knowing, no certainty, trying to create answers from nothingness. And so, it's not just about the price. Sometimes agreeing the sale is.
Yeah, it's true.
I had that with a personal agent, though, just recently. So I'm thinking personal agent on the other side of the transaction. This is going to be dream. Love this for me. How easy. No need to sales progress, whatever. And, we're days away from exchange and we learn that their client has resubmitted their mortgage offer. And we probably need another survey. And I'm like, well, okay, like what the hell? So yeah, we can't point fingers at any particular group of agents, unfortunately.
This is a can of worms, but how do we address that so if, John at Fine & Country, lots and lots of, Steph using a personal agent in Fine & Country, call them associates. Steph, obviously your business is all about personal agents. Wendy, traditional branch setup. In my world, where traditional branch mixes self-employed, we've got both. How do we introduce people in the future to self-employed agency? Because it is, you can't argue, it's growing, and get them skilled up to a level where, from a conveyancing perspective, I learned everything I've learned by being in the room with people that know more than me.
Yeah.
How do we skill people up in the future? And there's no short answer. But Steph, have you got anything?
I think, I don't know whether this is the direct answer or not, but I think that when people go self-employed, they're a little bit more obsessed with being a business owner than actually building a business, if that makes sense. And so for me personally, if I align myself with a great conveyancer, with a great broker who I know their shit, right, and handle their part of the transaction, if I can encourage my clients to use those guys, and I'm not talking about getting a referral here, but if I can encourage my client to go with people that I know I'm confident with, that I work well together with, I don't necessarily need to be the expert at every single juncture. And actually, there could be an argument to say I should keep my nose out of bits that don't involve me and let good people do a good job. So I think, people are kind of out there sort of being obsessed with the fact that they've gone self-employed when actually they need to get their house in order in terms of every part of the process they're going to follow. And I think that would save a lot of hassle. The other way to look at that is, if you've got really competent people handling the part of the transaction that they should be really good at, you're ultimately going to get paid quicker, right? And your client moves quicker. And we know that time kills deals. So that suits everybody. So that's my quick answer that isn't quite a direct answer. But God, how do we upskill people?
But these are the people that haven't, because they don't know anything. They don't even know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So they think they know, but they probably don't. And I agree with you, use someone good and you can encourage your whoever, but some people still go and use really useless people and really rubbish solicitors. And when things don't quite go right, they will still be really nervous of having the conversations to tell and it's not just agents, it's buyers and sellers as well, because we don't always find out, we don't find out stuff, whatever it may be, until, late on in the game from other people as well. So I think that the whole thing is trying to promote like an honest and transparent transaction from everybody. It's the agents, solicitors and conveyancers, obviously, they don't always choose to pass on information either. We somehow need to make this whole thing have a bit more integrity and be honest, and I just don't know that that will ever happen.
So
I'm going to go and cry now because
I'm going to share with you the egg.
Can we talk about something funny?
I'm going to share with you the egg theory, and my egg theory is this: there are good eggs and bad eggs.
Yeah.
There is the distinction between self-employed and employed is irrelevant, because there are some really good self-employed agents and there are some really poor self-employed agents, and there are some really good employed agents and some really really poor employed.
And solicitors.
Well, and this is the point I'm going to make reference to the eggs. So you look at it surely as a knowledge thing and a training thing and standards, and maybe it's an accreditation. And if all estate agents were licensed and they had a minimum standard of working, then the industry standards would improve. Well, that's bullshit, because you only have to look at conveyancing where you are licensed, and they're they're awful. They're absolutely awful. And then I'm going to share another anecdotal story, which will then bring this egg theory back round again. We are ambassadors of the people that we represent and that we deal with. So we've just had a sale recently, 1.5 million. Sales proceeding nicely. Agent went and met the surveyor at the property. Surveyor did the appointment. At the end of it, gave the agent a nod and went, yeah, all good, no dramas here. I'll get the report through, send it through, no worries. Week later, agent had a call from the buyer. Yeah, we've had the survey report through. It's a down valuation to 1.35 million. I want you to put a price reduction to the vendor. I'm going to send you the report, but I do not want you to send the report to the vendor. It's my property, and it's not yours to share. And I also don't want you having a discussion with the surveyor. And the agent sort of smelling something a bit rotten here, thinking, hang on a minute, I talked to that surveyor. That surveyor was okay. There was no dramas. This girl got the report, sent it through to me and said, look, something doesn't quite stack up here. I don't want to talk to the surveyor because I don't want to compromise GDPR. There's 2 sections to the report. The earliest section to the report contradicted the summary in the report, which was the price. The buyer had doctored the survey report and put in a down valuation of 150 grand, and then tried to secure a price reduction off the back of it, and we flushed them out. So I come back to my there are good.
That's brilliant. I mean,
We've got something going on now, which is almost the same, where we've had a buyer coming, well, somebody wasn't coming and saying that they want a £350,000 price reduction because the house needs work. And it's like, actually, you could knock the house down and rebuild it for probably less than 350,000. And it all came down to different bits in the survey. Obviously, the £350,000 price reduction hasn't happened. And it was a bit of damp. I mean, seriously, it's unbelievable what some people do.
What's more unbelievable, Wendy, is that property is only on the market for 500. I mean, outrageous.
It's a bit more than that, but 350. I mean, who would even ask for a £350,000 price reduction?
Look, I'm okay with people asking. Anyone can chance their arm.
For that.
Definitely not okay with somebody going in doctoring.
No.
Do you know what? If it hadn't have been the girl having a conversation with the surveyor and the surveyor saying, yeah, it's okay, you'd have no reason to suspect that this has been doctored. And we've all seen ropey AIPs and dodgy proofs of funds and things like that, where somebody's tried chancing their arm. This wasn't an obvious thing. It was the same font, the same size, very elegantly put into the document.
Outrageous.
And the girl I'm dealing with, she's saying, I'm really worried about compromising GDPR by talking to the surveyor and checking. I've gone, no, a suspicion of fraud overwrites anyone's protection for data. We need to establish whether this has been doctored or not. So the nature of the business that we're in, there are good and bad eggs. There are good and bad buyers. There are good and bad sellers. There are good and bad solicitors. There are good and bad agents. And because you've got so many interlinking parts in every transaction, you're going to have a bad egg somewhere. You're going to have somebody that's like holding the sale back. And it's a very frustrating process, unfortunately. But I wonder how many instances there are where somebody's got away with that, where somebody's got away with doctoring a survey and the agent hasn't picked up
But
on it.
if your person hadn't met the surveyor there, so say the surveyor had access via the vendor or just picked up keys from the office, no one would have known that the surveyor actually said, yeah, no problem. So here's a lesson for all those people that need a bit of learning. Talk to your surveyor when they come back from their survey, whether they're bringing the keys back or you're meeting them there, get the keys back from them, but somehow or another, make sure you chat to your surveyor before.
And John,
they
the net
go.
outcome of that example, that experience you've had is what? That you hired the buyer into your business as a negotiator, did you?
Part of the
look-
graphics design team now.
Yeah, they're in the studio doing brochures.
Yeah, no, I like it. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I'm interested. Yeah, send
I
their
mean,
name out.
you have got to take your hat off at the pure balls of it.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't
Yeah.
see, and again, I said this in the social media post, you know, people don't trust estate agents. And actually, the vast majority of agents that I talk to and work with, they're good people. They're
Yeah.
not bad eggs.
Hey, you can't say that, because I said that once on LinkedIn and somebody wrote a whole blog about me being a snowflake.
Well, I mean, they have got a little bit of a point. Snowflake is probably the last word in the English dictionary that I would ever use to describe you. Funnily enough, yeah. I say this horrible thing that I think the consumer gets what they deserve. The consumer is, out of everyone, they tell the most lies. It just is what it is. I'm getting offered this fee. No, you're not. My budget is this. No, it's not.
No,
I need
you're
this
not.
many rooms. No, you don't. Everything is embellished or exaggerated or nonsense. Oh, well, we're absolutely at the maximum of our budget. Okay, so there's no deal unless there's another 20 grand. Oh, all right, we can find it. Just, you get if you're going to be dishonest at every possible interaction, when you register, you don't give us your full details, you think we're going to squeeze you up. No, we're just going to find you the home you want to buy. Or when we're negotiating, don't tell us the agent down the road is doing X, Y, Z when we know they're not, because I know them. I've worked with them for years and they just work there now. If you're going to lie, then don't be a hypocrite and get pissed off when it comes back at you. Not that I'm saying we should, by the way, but the buyers and the sellers, the consumer,
But the
they
thing
get a
is,
little
like,
bit of
if
what
you
they
go to a
deserve.
restaurant, you know not to be an arsehole, right? Because they're going to spit in your food, this, that, and the other. So unless you are just literally a complete arsehole, you're nice, you're polite, you get on, you have a chat, they tell a cheesy joke, you laugh and go, piss off, want to drink your wine now, under your breath, it's all good. So why are people so effing rude? I did a viewing the other day, and I'm just, hey, have you seen many houses? Just having a chat. And this woman looked at me like I was a piece of shit on her shoe. And I'm like, hang on a second, because if you like this house, I now don't like you.
Yeah.
But I mean, culturally, we've got a real issue in this country that, like, changing that perception. How do we do it, and how long does it take?
This was what I was going to talk about.
So, go on, Wendy, let's segue straight in. Go for it.
Straight in, as smooth as anything. Why are people being so? I've just had enough of people being rude, horrible, and everyone is like it. I don't know what's going on in the world.
I mean, and I'm going to end the podcast there because I think you've absolutely nailed it. The world is full of miserable arseholes. My wife said something yesterday. We've got a secondary business, a sports kids coaching business. She runs that, and we had an interaction with someone recently, somebody else who works in the network, and there's boundaries. Like, it's like a franchise network, so you've got your boundaries. You work in your own patch, and the franchisor sent us our patch almost 12 months ago, showed us where the line was, and we've taken it intentionally where our children go to school, because that makes the most sense. And so we've set up a new provision. It's weekend sports provision, football, great, wonderful. It's at our eldest child's old school. It's going to be brilliant. And we found out, because the next door neighbor franchisee called head office and went mental, that we're in his patch. We said, well, look, here's the map. We're in our patch. And head office had changed the map by accident. And they've now reversed the map, and we are actually in his patch, but almost impossible for us to know that. So because he was such an arsehole about it, we have a decision to make. We could hand it over to him. It's a business in a box. Like we've done all the work, we've done all the marketing, customers ready to go, we've negotiated terms with the venue, everything is ready. We could give it to him, or we could say, because I suggested maybe we do it together, because actually my wife is the main lead on this. She's going to be the main lead magnet because she knows all the local mums. If we work on it together, maybe we just give you a cut of what we perform there. And his response was, no, that's too much trouble. So maybe it's too much trouble for us to hand it over to you and we just shut it all down.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So we took the moral high ground, and because friends and stuff are going to be involved and take their kids there, we said, here you go. Actually, you know what? You can have it. Here you go. We'll make the introduction. We've got the marketing. Just it's yours. A week later, he hasn't responded to say thanks. And I want to karate chop him in the throat. But he's about 20 years older than me, and
Take him down.
I'll be in trouble. But don't you think that's who? Like, we're literally, here you go. Here's some revenue. You haven't got to do anything. Everything's ready to go. And he hasn't managed to say thank you for that. And my wife said, that gratitude seems to be lost. People are just there's this, I don't know, is it entitlement, or we've all just become arseholes? But I completely agree with what you're saying, Wendy. And that was just our little example from yesterday.
Yeah.
We had an instance, I had an instance a few weeks back. A developer contacted me, sent me an email at about 8:45, 9 o'clock on a Thursday night saying, I've seen this site, I want to bid on it. I need an appraisal back on the 14 units that are going to be built within this listed building. I need prices, I've got a meeting with the bank tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. As in, I need all of this stuff back by tomorrow. I've got appointments from 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'm going to struggle to get it to you. I'll get it to you as soon as I can. It won't be for them, but I'll try and get it done for later on in the day. Move stuff about so I could do this stuff. And I did. I spent a couple of hours on this. It wasn't something that I just threw together and said, yeah, £200 per square foot. I put quite a bit of detail into it, broke down all of the comparables, done a proper site analysis. Never even had a reply. Never even had an act of courtesy. Not even thanks for that, I really appreciate it. I'll let you know how I get on.
Do you know, you should send a bill. Just send him a bill for your time.
Okay, he's come
People
back.
like that don't deserve to have stuff like that done for them.
He's come back to me since with another site. Thankfully, it wasn't in my area. I had to pass it on to somebody else. But it's just
You've given someone else a dodgy job. Cheers, John.
I wouldn't even dream of not having the courtesy to go back. And again, even with the request, you'd load it at the start and say, look, I appreciate this is a late evening request. And I'm chancing my arm here. It stands a chance that you're probably not going to have time or capacity to be able to do it. You're not sat there expecting this to come in, but I've had this drop on my lap. I've got a meeting with the bank tomorrow. It was almost I demand that you do this for me by the next morning. So we said that we weren't going to get sweary, so I'll try and rein it in. I don't want to.
Bollocks, John. Get it off your chest, son.
Yeah, swear.
Yeah.
I really. There are certain instances or certain things around our current society where I think we were better off in the past. And this is one of them. When people are arseholes, back in the old day, I could get away with karate chopping someone in the throat. But now, it'll be all over social media. I'll be a leper. But when you used to, when things used to get sorted out properly, people didn't take liberties like they do now, because we just have to go outside and talk about it. And all right, fine, yeah, you're right. But now everyone's a chance at, well, it's an exaggeration, not everyone. Obviously, you three aren't, obviously.
I'm 100% a chancer.
Yeah, no, I know.
Ben Madden, advocate for corporal punishment. Don't be or you get
Beheading is back. Yeah.
Honestly,
It's the whole thing on social media as well, right? In that everybody's walking around masquerading as nice. And I mean, who wants to be nice anyway? What a
Wendy's nice.
No.
Oh my God, I said I was nice as well.
The nice for me is just a ridiculous excuse of a word for somebody that refuses to have an opinion on anything because, they're scared of repercussion. But actually, it was funny. I went to lunch with a potential partner last week, and in the end, I ended up describing something. I was like, people are just woke. And then I thought, this could go one way or the other now. I've only met this person for 25 minutes. But her face was like,
Yes.
yes. And I was like, yes, you as well. And oh my God, we're sat in this restaurant like, yay, kindred spirits. We're allowed to say these things to certain people.
Well,
Oh,
actually, I think if you say them, I think there are more people that feel that way. They're
I
just
agree with you.
worried about presenting that position because you're not,
Yeah.
you're no longer allowed to have an opinion. You know that. You're not allowed to offend people. That is absolutely not acceptable that people are allowed to be offended by your opinion. Yeah, very soft. We're very soft around the edges. We're not grateful. Oh, f it. I'm going to go get the razor blades out. I'm done.
Yeah, I think, yeah. But it's true. It is since COVID. I thought everyone was going to come out of COVID and be really nice to each other, and everyone came out more angry and horrible than, I mean, than they were before we had COVID. It was like that was our lesson of calm and love and blah blah blah. We're all in it together and all that shit. And everyone came out total
I don't
losers.
I don't want to get too pessimistic. I don't think there are good eggs and bad eggs, but the majority of people that you meet are okay. I think for everyone that you meet, there'll be one of three things that will happen. You'll either walk away from the interaction feeling better, feeling indifferent, or feeling worse. And the instances where you come away feeling worse from it, they maybe represent 20% of society. And you don't know what stuff and what baggage they've got behind it means that they're manifesting it as arseholes and being really horrible and mean. But actually, the majority of people that you meet are okay.
Mate, move to London for 6 months.
Huh?
Wendy's nodding. Live in London for 6 months. The 2080 might reverse.
Different world.
I couldn't live in the city. I couldn't. I'm a townie at heart. I'm in London with you tomorrow, Ben, and I will get the earliest train in to get there, do what I need to do, and then get back home again. In fact, the last time I was in London with you, I managed to find my way home in an Uber at about 3:30 in the morning, all the way back to Leamington Spa. So that's the extremes that I will go to get out of a city.
Is that, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's how you're going to pen that one. All right, I'll leave that alone. I'm not going to bait it into it. But at 3:30 in the morning, getting an Uber home has nothing to do with you wanting to get out of the city. But we'll leave that alone. No, I'm not. I'm not. But look, John, you said it. You're a townie. Show everyone your 6 finger. So, America, the world's full of arseholes. John, what have you got for us? What's the big finish?
Well, look, I was going to talk about the doctoring of a valuation. So we've already touched upon that, but I'll throw another one into the fold. It's just come through in the last 24 hours. Spray foam insulation.
oh God.
Oh no.
To end on a high.
Why is
That's
that
The
still
most depressing
advertised?
podcast ever.
absolutely worth the entry price. This story, go on.
Why is that? I don't know if it's as much of a problem where you are as it is where we are. It rots roof timbers. You can't get a mortgage on it. Lenders won't touch it, and there are loads of houses covered in it. And it's still being advertised on social media today as a solution to bring your heating bills down. So there are people blissfully unaware getting specialists in to spray foam all of their roof, and it's absolutely ruining their building, and they're going to struggle to sell it again in the future. And I don't understand why there isn't government intervention and it hasn't been banned.
I'm just going to check. Did John just say he doesn't understand why there isn't government intervention? Has he lost the f***ing plot? What do they intervene
They
on?
might be a bit busy sorting out their asses. I don't know.
Oh, crikey.
So
Very
this
funny.
is so niche, John. This is why you're here. This is like, I could see it in the girl's eyes thinking, who's this f***ing lunatic Ben's got on the podcast with us? He's talking about loft insulation. But has this impacted so you say it's impacted the sale recently?
Are you serious? You don't have this as an issue? We have it all the time.
Mate,
I had one of our partners up in Morecambe, bless him, he is up in Morecambe. Thomas actually went with other contractors to remove it to make sure his sale went through. I mean, that's going above and beyond for a seller. Again, he's from Morecambe though, so you know.
Yeah, he's got several extra fingers.
Many.
Possibly. Yeah, John, I mean, it doesn't impact. I'm down in sunny London where everyone's an arsehole, but they've got cash and they don't care. So, you know, it's give or take. As you know, as I said last night on that meeting we're at, I am an arsehole. So it works perfectly for me. International cash. They, you know, they don't know of what they can and can't do. And, you know, I don't go in the lofts. Wow, I'm painting a real picture here, aren't I? So I work for a company called Fox's. No, okay, no, it's too much.
No, keep going.
I haven't done. I'm gearing myself up for several podcasts in one day. Well, that's a poor choice of language. And I'm my fourth double espresso in. So yeah, there's sort of verbal diarrhea going on. Right.
Four double espressos.
Yeah, well, we've got a again, it's London. We do what we want. We've got a an espresso machine. Nespresso, right? Let's just do. I saw a funny.
I love Nespresso. I can't leave my house without my
Isn't it funny though when you price up Nespresso? So a jar of coffee is what, $5 ish? I don't know. Don't remember last time I bought one. An espresso pod is 40p, 40 to 50p. Yeah.
Well, it does depends on your flavour.
Well, you know my flavour, baby.
Cheaper.
What's your flavour?
Wow.
Isn't it fun? Yeah, I know. Wow. Yeah.
But it's worth it.
Is it worth it, Wendy? Because I've got one at home and I've got one in the office.
And
we used to buy a jar of coffee that would last weeks for $5, and now we're getting through that in a couple of days.
Not being funny. Sorry, any of my staff that are watching this, but there is no way I would put an espresso in our office. It would cost us too much money. I only have it at home.
Well, we've got a tiny little team, and I hide the pods. I keep the pods in the safe, so they get coffee when I allow them to.
You know, Ben, you're tighter than 2 coats of paint.
Yeah, listen,
probably got an average fee of 40 grand. Yeah, no, you like coffee quota.
You know what? When you started talking about earlier on about partner agents, you expect they're going to be really, really great, and then you have I've got a story, and it's in relation to a record fee we agreed, and I was reluctant to tell the story because of the size of the fee, and people will instantly be like, "Scum, cut him. He's not. This is not allowed." But sod it, we're here, and definitely that last double espresso has kicked in. So we agreed a sale in September last year. The fee was £84,000.
Love that.
With that, we loved it too. And the buyer was selling through a personal agent or a self-employed agent with a brand that we were mildly familiar with. And as it happens, randomly, this particular agent contacted me to be on the podcast before, which is quite random. And I said, yeah, I'll give you a call tomorrow over email. And I called him. This is let's say this is a few months before we agreed the deal. So I call him, hi, it's Ben, blah, blah, blah. So you first come on the podcast. He says, I'm just a bit busy. Can you give me a call back? And I said, no. Call me whenever you want. It's all adding up now, isn't it? Maybe I didn't say no. Anyway, he didn't call me back after saying, can he come on the podcast? But he doesn't necessarily join the dots up here because it turns out he's a moron. So his buyer, who's buying our client's property, is selling a business. Sorry, go back. We don't know he's selling a business. He's presented the offer and he will exchange within 3 weeks. Now that's not unheard of. Cash purchase, that, you know, our average exchange time in this model is quicker because of the amount of cash purchases we deal with. It's a freehold. It's pretty simple. So gets agreed, 3-week exchange, lovely, wonderful. Do all the usual checks, a lot of detail. 2 weeks in, okay, we need to book a survey. What are we booking a survey for? They're cash. Oh, yeah, they're going to get a small mortgage. How are they going to get that in the next 7 days? Yeah, it might not be 3 weeks. Okay, all right. So it transpires that they can't buy our client's property until they have sold their business. Their business is an international business. They've been trying to sell it for months and months and months and months. But I'm giving you the whistle-stop story. This is the most extreme set of lies in 20 years in agency I'd ever heard. There was so much going on. There was calls in the middle of the night. between his client, the buyer of our property, a conveyancing solicitor, and the solicitor or the lawyer in America acting on for the sale. And the agent's meant to attend. And the next morning we'll call up and say, okay, so how did that call go? Everything, are we progressing now? And he'd say, I fell asleep. You fell asleep. This, like, getting these people in a room together. It turns out he was just making these things up. There were no calls scheduled. He was just dragging it, desperately hoping that the business sale would go through and his clients could sell their home and buy this onwards, because it was a big fee to him. Insane. And it fell through in December after months of working on it. But have you ever lost an £84,000 fee at your pipeline? In the first week of December, for the team, that was not much fun.
No.
Not much fun. But as I said to someone in a group recently, I take a more stoic approach to business now. No one's allowed to celebrate. And that means we're not allowed to cry when things go wrong. We're just very bland. That's what I'm going for in life. Bland.
Blandness.
Vanilla
What was that?
Bland.
Vanilla Ben.
Vanilla. Boring Ben. We've got Jolly John, wonderful Wendy, super Steph. So yeah, that was quite painful. That's our story. But anyone watching, I'm not just an arsehole who does £84,000 fees. That is like a real one-off. John's right. Our average fee is about £40,000. So it's a hard life. It is a hard life. John, you put your hand. You lost a big one. What's the biggest you've ever lost?
So I lost an 87,500.
Oh, he's got to outdo me, by £3,000. Oh no, mine was 88. Sorry.
Get that. This exchanged contracts and the buyers moved in on licensing between exchange and completion, and then defaulted on the completion.
Oh wow.
We had another one at just under 6 million exchange contracts, and the buyers defaulted on completion. So yeah,
these would have been better stories than spray foam.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I'm starting to sort of see a theme here, John. You seem to attract some right wrong-uns. I'm not, you seem to be the common denominator here. For someone that I regard as a good agent, maybe.
those were mine. Only one of those were mine. The other one.
Just pull that back quickly. It's not mine.
I must stress they didn't lose either of those listings. But yeah, they hurt those big ones when they fall through. They're great when they go through. I think one of the most shocking ones that we had, I don't know if you've got this in your contract, we've got a clause that said if a buyer ready, willing and able, again, the fees due. I've never enforced it in my life. I think that draconian approach to agency is what gives agents a bad reputation. But I think it should be there because there is the occasional rogue vendor, and it's nice.
I have done it once, and it was not that long ago, but we worked on a deal for 2.5 years. And the vendor literally, oh my God, it was painful. It wasn't even, there was a reason that we were on a particularly low fee. I won't go into any more just in case anyone ever sees this. After
no one watches it. Tell us the story.
2.5 years, our vendor pulled out literally the week of exchange.
No.
And I basically said, I phoned them and said, I'm really sorry, it's in the contract and I am actually going to invoice you because what we got didn't even cover the amount of time and effort that we'd put into it. And they paid, and they did pay us, to be fair to them, they did pay us, but me, seriously.
So we had one of those. We had a chain of 3 in Leamington Spa, all 3 fine and country sales. The lady at the top of the chain, she pulled out on the day of exchange of contracts, collapsing all 3 sales. And the simple reason why she didn't want to proceed was she'd lost her husband to motor neurone disease.
Oh, okay, it's not quite the same.
She just couldn't come to terms with selling the house. And of course, one of the questions was raised is, do you charge us? And not on your Nelly, we're not charging that vendor. We managed to reinstate another property. We put a chain of 3 back together, which went through 3 or 4 months later. And then a few years after that, I remember that the lady passed. and her son come back to us and he said, "I'll never forget how you treated my mum at
Yeah.
the last point, and we'd
Well,
like to back himself again." And that's what I think. If
Yeah,
you
circumstances.
do the right thing, then
Yeah.
capital will kick in and good stuff will happen. Obviously, it doesn't work that way in London because everyone's horrible, and now
No, we do
Yeah,
the good thing when we need to, but after 2.5 years, it was just like really the reason wasn't good
I just
enough.
haven't
There
got
was
the
no
information.
sympathetic reason. There was just a change of mind, and that was not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, in that example, John, I had a builder. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't. I'd have got somebody else to do it for me because I'm a coward. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, this is a bit more like it. Some funny stories because we got very bleak, miserable. But also, this is my point. If we go back in time, Wendy, that person, you could have popped around and karate chopped him in the throat. No, 20 years ago, that'd have been acceptable.
Taller than me, I couldn't have reached.
Well, I mean,
I'm a bit of a short horse, remember.
yeah, true. I remember my dad always tells a story that we're in Chiswick. My family never actually lived in Chiswick. They lived one town along in Brentford, which is because it was whilst they were trying to buy in the boom, they were under offer for getting on for a year while chain was trying to complete. So this would have been in the 80s, and in the time it took the chain to complete, they got gazumped. And my dad's story says he's a scaffolder, and they are what they are. He said, yeah, so I went around and saw the estate agent and sorted that out. We didn't buy the house, but I felt better. And that is the way life used to be. And yeah, I'm all about feeling better. So good note to end on. Danny Madden, thug. He's not really a thug. He's a genuinely nice human being. Just doesn't like being gazumped. It's been fun, guys. It's been nice. It's been interesting. Little bit of swearing.
I feel it was still quite tame today.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you've got Handford on talking about loft insulation, there's only so much you can do.
I'm going to turn up hungover next time.
Turn up on what?
I'm going to turn up hungover again next time. Clearly more entertaining that way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you are a good hungover guest. There's no doubt about it. And we have to separate Wendy and John. Can't have more episodes together. Anyway, we're waffling on and forgetting that people are, there's at least 7 people probably listening to this, us 4 and 3 randoms. So we're going to say goodbye, hand over to Watkins. Thanks, guys. You've been wonderful. See you all soon.
See you later.
That estate agent is so lucky. No, he's not. No, she's not. Success comes from hard work and patience. That's really what it's all about. Putting the hard miles in, eating the dirt while everyone's flying in the bloody clouds.